I was reminded of a story in this book called It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin the other day when um, somebody fairly close to us came in and said, it was really weird today because somewhere in the early morning, I started feeling this anxiety, like I was going to get bad news, like something terrible was gonna happen today, and I was going to get bad news. And started out kind of low grade, and as the day went on, it got worse and it got worse, and pretty soon there's like this anxiety and like you know something bad is about to happen, but no context. There's nothing going on in life, just one of those weird feelings. So fast forward a little bit, comes home from work in that evening, and the anticipation just keeps getting worse. But there again, there's like everything's fine at home. Those are kind of one of those times when you start saying, oh, maybe I ought to call, and like something's going on, but you just don't know what. And then he's scrolling Facebook, and he opens this up, and here's a post from a family member that says, it was like 12 years ago today that we found out so and so had had a heart attack or had a stroke or something like that. And all of a sudden he's like, that's what that is. Like, today was the day that a big event happened in this family, and it's an anniversary. The curious thing about that is he didn't know that it was the anniversary until he saw that post. But as soon as he saw the post, and he had an understanding of what's explained in this book called It Didn't Start With You, that anniversaries can trigger our nervous system begin to anticipate what happened in the past. And the book explains it a whole lot better, and I will get into those details, but for now, just know that knowing sometimes an anniversary of a family event, a big family event, can help bring calm to your system. And here's the story, and It Didn't Start With You, that it reminded me of. So there's a young man, and I don't have all the details, but let's just, for the sake of things, say he's about 19. He's athletic. He's never really had any physical issues. He's got an athlete's scholarship to play ball for this college. He's doing great. And one night at 3 in the morning, he wakes up and he is terrified. He's shivering. He's just cold as can be. He can't get warm. And the thought that keeps running through his head is like, if I go to sleep, I'm going to die. And this goes on, like you think, okay, well, this is going to pass. Well, it affected him so much because he couldn't go to sleep that he ends up losing his scholarship. He's got anxiety. He goes to a naturopathic doctor, a couple of psychologists, to a sleep lab, to regular doctors. Nobody's got an answer for him. And a year later, like, he's at his wit's end. He's lived with this for a year. He comes in, he meets Mark Willin. They start talking about, what's your language? What's the fear? And he says, well, I just feel like if I go to sleep, I'm going to die. So Mark, in this process, says, okay, well, let's talk to your family a little bit. Did anything ever happen to somebody when they were about 19? Did anybody ever have an experience where they froze to death? Did anybody have an experience where they might have felt or believed, if I go to sleep, I'll die or I won't wake up? So, goes to the family, goes to his parents with these questions, and the parents are like, oh my God, like, you're talking about Dad's brother. So this young man's dad's brother, at the age of 19, got a job with a power company, and he was out at like 2 in the morning checking power lines up in northern Alaska or the Yukon or something like that in a huge storm, and something happened. And when they found his body, they could tell that he had struggled, like he had laid down and then gotten back up and tried to go more, and then laid down and gotten up, and he struggled. So here's a 19-year-old at 3 in the morning who is shivering cold and certainly would be thinking, if I go to sleep, I'm going to die. Now, here's the weird thing. So this young man with the symptoms in present day had never heard the story because the family was too distraught to even bring up his name or even talk about it. It's like, okay, we just can't talk about this issue. And how interesting that as soon as that soul, that essence, that energy is re-recognized, this young man starts to sleep and the coldness goes away and his vitality comes back. And there's several explanations. Mark answers that question by saying that souls that are ignored or forgotten, whatever, they're just looking for like that energy to be acknowledged again. Please don't get caught up in trying to figure out what this is or why it is, or dismiss the whole thing because of the explanation. Just know that this kind of stuff happens all the time, and whether I can explain it or not, this is a big one for me. Over and over, there are things that I can't explain, but they're so consistent, and this is one of them. Big family events, anniversaries, and it can be in your lifetime, it can be in previous patterns. There's genetics that are involved in this, there's epigenetics, there's survival instincts that engage genetic memory, that bring about thoughts and stuff like that. It's fascinating study. The point today, sorry about the rambling, the point today is that sometimes the smallest little thing that triggers us into a huge anxious or even just a uncomfortable feeling can be coming from those kinds of memories, those kinds of anniversaries. Please don't get stuck on this, but just know that it exists. If it fascinates you, if it brings back curiosity, let me know. I'll keep doing more videos on this. I definitely want to go through more what Mark talks about in his book and share those kinds of things. It's just kind of cool to know. Again, I believe that this kind of information, if I'd have known it when I was a young person or a teenager or in my 20s, if I'd have been open to it, could have totally changed my whole life. One of the big factors I found out in all of this was I have a family history of males who are in the medical profession who tended to commit suicide, and nobody really knows why. That helped explain a lot about my tendencies and my suicidal ideation, especially when I became a caregiver. Anyway, there's probably other ways to explain that. It worked for me. That's enough for me. If you have another explanation, and I'm sure there's a dozen of them out there, great. Just know that if I found healing and you disagree with the method or the understanding, could you please just let me remain healed without criticizing or attacking whatever method it was that brought me to it? Something to think about. That's a whole nother video about authorities and the influence they can have. We'll go into that. Anyway, enough for today. If you're curious, if you found something interesting about this, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and hope to see you out there on the trail. I'll get to making some more videos, and thank you all on the Patreon page for making it possible for me to financially spend more time making videos like this and sharing information so that you are informed and perhaps you can share it with others. All right, take care. We'll see you out there on the trail.